Welcome to this week's edition of the Al and the Pussycat. This is the program where we endeavour to answer your queries, and we have a talented panel that are trying to get to grips with all your queries and questions and problems you may be having. Down the far end, we have Janice Gray, entertainer extraordinaire. Janice, lovely to see you in your red today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Sarah Batter joins us, fundraiser extraordinaire as well. You're very busy, mate.
I am quite busy. Yep, got a couple of capital fundraising campaigns on.
Well done.
Yep, and some operational stuff too. Yep.
Good. And of course, Tina Cartwright, who is a school registrar, and the registrations flowing in at St Margaret's, are they, Tina?
Yeah, it's usually a bit quieter at this time of year, but it's busy.
Busy.
Increasingly busy.
All right, well, let's get to you. Now, this is the show where you have the input, okay? You give us the questions, we'll endeavour to answer them. So we'll show you the graphics as we go through of how you can make contact with the Pussycats, and we'll see how we get on. Let's go first to Tina. This is from Owen and Riccarton, and he writes, I'm aware it's an old argument which I've not been involved in, but my wife and I have to decide if our 13-year-old son should attend a single-sex school or a co-ed one. What's the panel's advice? We'll start with you because you're at the coalface, Tina.
Okay. I think it's probably important as a family that they visit a variety of schools and they will get a sense of what feels right. Sometimes family dynamics come into the situation.
By that you mean what?
By just boys in the family. You might want to go think about co-ed. There is some research that boys do better in a co-ed system and girls better in single sex, but
the makeup of the family could be important, isn't it? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it could be, but it's down to the individual,
right.
Individual child, and if they do visit different schools, sometimes friends make a bit of a difference. But
I used to have the old adage that a good kid does well at any school, really.
True.
Yeah, so it's a matter of blending it. Sarah, you've faced that problem yet? Not quite, no.
Not quite, but I have thought about it a lot, particularly St Margaret's actually has been on my radar for my daughter, and she's only not even 7
Now,
yet.
she is an only child and a girl.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible, but probably co-ed would be better, maybe. We don't have a lot of men around, but I think there are some schools that stand above others, unfortunately. I have that opinion.
What about if your daughter was to try, say, a co-ed intermediate, and so she's tried sort of both, and then work out your secondary school?
Well, she will effectively at the primary school she's at.
Right.
They do co-ed up until, they leave, basically, which is just before, I'd call it third form. See, I'm so not into these years at all. I get completely confused. So she would go up to Form 2 in primary school and then move into Form 3.
Janice, one of the factors that often comes into this is where their mates are going. They want to carry on, don't they?
Yes, it's true. I find that it's no longer what school did you go to in conversations these days. It's who's your surgeon.
Oh, really? Totally different perspective there from Janice. Yes. But do you have a feeling one way or the other? What is the best
Christchurch East, that's a good school, and that's definitely co-ed, and very, very cross-pollinated population-wise. Different countries. Yes, that's right. That's what I meant. Multicultural. Cross-pollination. Have another drink, Jan. I will. The thing is that I think education is terribly important. You never know how important it is until it's over.
And taking advantage of what's on offer at your school too is very important.
That's right.
I don't know that we've actually solved your problem, Owen, but I think each case is a different case, Tina. Fair enough?
Yes,
and you assess it that way.
And listen to your son as well.
Yeah, dead right.
I think one of the big things, talking about friendships, is that the realisation that when you move from one school to another school, you are often going into a bigger melting pot.
Correct.
And you make new friends. So it's not high on my list of criteria for choosing a school, is that one because your friends are going. Neighbourhood school is another one. To look at going local is
and ease of getting to the
important.
school and whatnot, I suppose. As well. The other thing just goes through my mind, I was just thinking about it. When they do get dropped into a big school, that must be one heck of a shock to them, isn't it?
There's usually good orientation programs and things like that.
Did any of you board? That's good.
No,
certainly not.
Because that must be a culture shock as well. I reckon. I didn't, but great wrench, really, isn't it, to go boarding? Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I would have loved to have boarded.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I think you
Why,
see.
Tina?
I think you see the friendships that
that
boarders,
are formed.
boarders have
Yes.
are lifelong ones.
Yes.
We just had a reunion at St Andrews of 50 years on, the class of 64, and the boarders still are as thick as thieves when they come and gather.
Did you say St Andrews?
Yes.
Did you go to are you a St Andrews old boy?
Did you not know that, Janice?
No, I don't. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, well.
I shall treat you with greater
I
respect.
should tell you what. And to the Probus women at Parklands,
Yeah.
heard Janice say that she's going to look after me, because I went and spoke to them not so long ago, and they said, that Janice Gray picks on you a lot, doesn't she?
Well, think about it. He's a token male.
Yes, I'm just the meat in the sandwich, basically.
That's right.
All right,
Literally.
let's go to one, though, for Janice. And this comes from a bit of experience for myself as well. And Maureen, I'm pleased to have got your letter, because she said, am I the only person who still thinks New Brighton is a great place to live? It appears to me that neither the government nor the council share my view. You're down that way, your
Yes,
thoughts?
I was out there yesterday, actually. We went to a lovely lunch at Christopher's, and it was absolutely superb. There's no competition, but we have a lunch every time we can, you know. We used to do it every week. Got too much, you know, bottle of wine, purchase all, love it. Anyway, I was thinking yesterday as I was driving down Marine Parade, would I like to live here? Would I like to live here? There's some beautiful houses going up on Marine Parade. There's a black and white one that I'd really like. But the thing is, I take my dog to the beach there. I love the beach. The wind would be a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
The wind would be a pain in the butt. And I wish Brighton all the very best, but I don't think it's going to change.
Yeah, it just is. It's quite depressing. That's
It is.
to live
It
there.
is.
Sarah, you been there lately or not?
No, but I remember as a child going there a lot and finding it depressing then.
Yes.
I always am shocked when people say, I love
Yes.
Brighton. I'm like, what
Yes.
the heck are you talking about?
Yes.
It just feels a bit
And
like
why?
hay bales rolling along the beaches and
But Tina, how stoic are those that are still there? That's the thing. I
They may have
admire
no choice,
their
Pete.
courage.
Financially, they may have no choice.
I think
You-
also it's a strong community, and people that are people who live along that coastline have often lived there. Generations have lived
Yes.
there. But I think the hardest thing for people visiting these days is getting there.
Oh,
The road and
We've got a roadie question coming up, but you're dead right.
And
yeah.
it is as much getting there and the number of empty sections. And it's
Would you
a
just bowl them all and start again?
No,
No.
no, you can't do that.
No.
That was my thought when I was there the other day. But yeah,
No.
that's right. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back with our panel and we'll keep checking through your questions. I've always said it, we should film the ad breaks. Janice could actually allude to a disaster that she's had in New Brighton. People steal her shoes down there.
Oh, from the beach.
Yeah.
From the beach. They're real beaches. Because the thing is, I lost my beautiful, what are those things called? Crocs.
Yep.
Pink Crocs. Anybody enjoying their feet in my pink Crocs, you have my blessing now, because I've gotten over that.
And if the man would please write in and tell us he's got them, would be tremendous.
Yes, that's right.
Janice,
I might
wouldn't
have another pair.
it? Right, let's go to a bit of a sporting one, this one, which is quite interesting, because it really was the issue of the last 12 months, wasn't it? There's no two ways about it. Joan from the Central City, and so she's living right where the action is, says, surely it's time for the Knockers to shut up and let Canterbury embrace and enjoy the superb new cricket oval in Hagley Park. They need to realise that in a democracy, you have to let the majority opinion win. Now, I walk the dog through there on a regular basis on a Sunday. I was against it. I didn't want our park dug up. I think now all it's done is enhance it. I know, Tina, you go around that area a bit.
I agree totally, and a little bit like you've watched the transition over the past year or so, and I think it's looking fabulous.
Right.
And I really like the banks, particularly moving on from Test cricket or World Cup cricket or whatever they're going to have there. Just the Saturday cricket for senior cricket, to be able to go and have a picnic and sit on those banks, and
And I
a little bit of
also-
protection from the wind.
also applaud
again.
the architect
Yeah.
for coming up with the idea of the roof line, which is very much like just a tented pavilion. And that's got I think it looks grouse in there. Have you been in there looking at it, Sarah? No, go and have a look. It's worth the effort.
I will.
Yeah. And boy, are we going to actually finally get some sport in our city and show the rest of the world what we can do. Janice, have you had a look in there and taken
Yes,
the
I
dog
went
in?
down to the Hagley Park the other day, and I concentrated on getting the pine cones that had been pushed into a nice easy pile for me, which was like, in fact, I was so enthusiastic, I went back to the car and got another 2 bags, and so I've got 3 bags of pine cones now for next year.
Are you expecting a cold snap?
Well, I've got my wooden, you know, I'm a lady that plans ahead. But the thing is, I was a bit again the stadium, the pavilion, and the wizard actually almost asked me to be a fairy against a bit old. My knees were giving me jip at the time and I couldn't see myself patting around in a tutu. But anyway, I wish them all the best. They've achieved, and they were stubborn about it, and they achieved.
Yeah.
Good.
And, do you think there is a bit of reluctance from Cantabs if it goes against them, a decision, just to keep harping on?
I wouldn't say that, but I agree that there's been a certain amount of tenacity with the pavilion, and I've had a few arguments with cricketers and everything like that. But my major concern is that I don't want a stadium and I don't want a convention centre. Right. I know this isn't connected to that letter, but I don't know who to tell. Which councillor do I go to? Why? Because if I use Dunedin as an example, it's been a mess, hasn't it? It's been expensive. It came in over budget, etc., etc., etc. If they could build a stadium where there are concomitant restaurants, perhaps...
Could you use that word again just for the benefit of the panel?
If they could build a stadium where they have concomitant restaurants and even a convention centre, I do believe that we need a bigger arena than perhaps the ones we've got at the moment. But a convention centre, a stadium, very low down on my list to whoever is listening.
But what about conferences and things like that, like running big...
They're still managing.
Events? Yeah, but they're not getting as big numbers as they really need to. For
well, they haven't got anywhere to put them, have they?
But they will if we have a convention centre.
Yeah, but how many times a year is it going to be used?
I think it would be used a lot.
How many times a year was the town hall used?
Town hall, a little bit, yeah.
Convention centre, I don't know. I can't agree with you, darling. I love you very much, but I don't agree.
I do take Sarah's line, though. Something has to be the catalyst for the hospitality industry to build accommodation, doesn't it? There's got to be a reason to build hotels and to get conventions, to get large sporting events or whatever.
Yes, but who's paying for it? The ratepayers.
Which we ain't got any money.
We haven't got any money.
The city's broke. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So leave it for a couple of decades. Leave it.
And Tina, when I drove through New Brighton yesterday, I thought, why would we be talking a convention centre or a stadium when we've still got people living in Brighton 4 years on using a portaloo?
Exactly.
Yeah. But then you could say the same thing about the Oval.
Yeah.
You know, like you can use any argument.
Yeah, they didn't have a home as such. This was built for them to have a home. We can probably make do with what we've got at the moment, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, cut our cloth.
I heartily think so.
I think I'm agreeing a little bit with Sarah.
Well, what do you... Yeah.
That if you haven't got the venues, you're not going to attract the larger conventions coming.
It's also piggying back off the earthquake, actually, in a positive way. So we now have attention and interest in the city. Let's really maximise it and bring in these big international groups that want to come here. We don't want them all just going to Auckland. We have to have something in Christchurch that brings people in.
Not yet. The thing is, people say, oh, the city centre. Where is the city centre? Love to see it sometime.
Yes,
got any pictures?
Riccarton?
City centre? No.
Yeah. Which opens another issue, and this isn't a letter, but this is the whole point of the conversation, really. What a damn nerve they've got to try and re-establish Christchurch in the main Cashel Street and then charge everybody to park. No one of the malls are doing so well. You park for nothing for 2 hours.
Yes, exactly.
What's the incentive to come in?
Oh, I got waved in by a lovely, he might have been a Samoan man, and if so, talofa. Anyway, I got waved in and I thought, oh, I'll just park here anyway, and put up my disability card. And then I looked up and there was 60 minutes free parking with a wheelchair sign.
Oh, that's
I was right. So I went and bought a box of Queen Anne chocolates going to Cashel Street for a birthday. Yes, to Valentine's.
That's the reason for the city.
Absolutely.
That is our city.
For a birthday present. And
but
the
you've
only
got
place
to make it traffic friendly. Surely
That's what it was. I found it wonderful.
Not
For me,
everybody's
it
got a
was.
disabled sticker.
They haven't.
We probably all need one, but we haven't got one, have we? That's the thing. But no, that just bugs me a bit. We're going to. I'll leave Sarah's question that she wants really to get her teeth into a little bit later on.
Oh,
so.
Yes.
What about the shifting of the containers? Has it made any great difference in that central city?
Not at all.
No.
Unless they're going to build something on where they move them
I think
from.
it's wonderful there, going through Valentine's and everything like that, running into friends, both of them. You know, it was superb.
And I bet they ask about your knees.
Well, I told them about my knees.
Are they still okay? They're
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Best thing you've had done.
Oh, look, honestly and truly, it's amazing, Grace.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. This is really just having a chat amongst ourselves. I'm
Sorry.
sorry, we'll get back to the letters. As soon as we take this break, we'll come back with an issue that Sarah is actually quite hot on, and we did get a letter about it. So back in just a moment. Welcome back to Emma from Burwood. Thank you very much for your letter too. It's appreciated. It's a subject I haven't really given a lot of thought to, but we were talking before the show, and I've got to say, Sarah does have some real issues with this. People trafficking.
Human trafficking. Yeah. I obviously raise money for different charities, and one of the groups that I've been talking to is called Endeavour, and they're based in Christchurch, believe it or not, and they actually go into countries that run operations where children as young as 5 years old are sold, basically for sex. It's, sex tourism, and say 7,000 Kiwis would leave New Zealand every year to travel internationally to take part. I don't know exactly how involved they would get in it.
Take part in what? Rescuing them or participating?
Sorry, they call it the industry, the sex tourist industry,
right.
Let's say.
So they're participants?
Yeah, participants. Yeah. And it's a $99 billion US a year industry, and it will overtake drugs because you can reuse a human, whereas if you have a drug, it's done and done, right? It's absolutely horrific. Some of these girls and women are kept in cells, and they have shackles on their legs, and that's really bad example, but you could have up to 100 women in one big warehouse.
Are there specific regions, or is it global?
There's obviously parts of Asia are really bad, some parts of Eastern Europe. Do you know what I found really interesting is in Atlanta in America and Las Vegas in America, it happens a lot.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, but not the children so much there, but women. And so Western women are trafficked over to those parts of the world. It is. I've just had literally my head blown off by learning about this group and what they do. So they would go in covertly, wearing cameras and pretending to be tourists, and then they would try and work with the local police and forces. But often those guys are corrupt anyway, and so they will.
Jen, is it an issue that you...
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I've seen it on the TV in Thailand and everything like that. I've been to Pat Pong and everything like that, where you can get anything, and anything connected with table tennis balls apparently is available also. However, I don't like the fact that there are men in the world who are able to buy a baby of 18 months, 9 months.
That's it.
I find we have been emancipated in this country for over 150 years. Is that right? We women have had the vote since whatever. I don't think it's done us a great deal of favour, because we are still considered to be second rate in the world. And this is why this is unable to be acted, because women aren't listened to. Men think that they have the right to have a body if they want, and at whatever age. It gets right up my nose. I'm not being very coherent because I'm not thinking rationally.
It's emotional. It just drives
it
every
gets me raw. It does.
And I'll tell you, I was sitting in a house with a couple of parents whose children go to the same school Ava goes to, and the father, I was talking to him about it, and the mother, and they're a well-to-do couple, lovely, and he kind of laughed and said, I've been to Thailand, and I went to a place once and there was a glass dance floor and we were all sitting underneath it, and no one was wearing any pants. And I was like,
exploitation?
Well, I don't know.
They don't see it as exploitation, they see it as entertainment.
Tina, has it cropped up in your school life?
Well, I guess the thing I'm thinking about is the Madeline McCann situation.
Yes, that's right.
And that's come to a bit of a head in the last week or two with a fellow.
I'm thinking of 250 girls in Nigeria, wasn't it?
Right.
How could you just take 250 daughters?
Sex slaves.
But where do you put them?
There's such a system. There's a network, an international network that is slick and expensive, heaps of money, and it's just ruthless. And there are heaps of places, and the law sometimes isn't on the right side.
Well, Emma, you've touched a nerve, and there's some pretty strong feeling among the panellists, which is fine. This is a difficult one, and I do feel for you here. Anna from Northwood is wrestling with a decision. With all the advertising at present around the need to have a mammogram, I can only think I should, but I'm terrified at the prospect. What's been the experience from the panel? Who wants to open the batting?
Janice?
Only good. only good. Go along. You'll get your breasts squeezed a bit between the plates and everything like that. It's only uncomfortable for a moment or two, but the thing is that they can tell you if you've got a lump, if you've got a shadow, if you've got anything. Go ahead and go bravely.
Sarah?
I've never had a mammogram.
Right.
So I don't know really much about that.
Why have you not? You must be exposed to the publicity about it.
Do you self-examine?
I probably, yeah.
What do you mean, probably? Yes, no question, mate. Do you feel your tit in the shower?
I know what my boob feels like, let me tell you that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And?
Tina?
I'm part of the program. I'm of the
Right.
age where I've
Definitely.
been hooked into the program, and
Definitely.
I think in the time that's happened, I think the process have got better. You go
Absolutely.
and it doesn't seem to hurt as much as it did the first time.
That's right.
Perhaps that was the
Because
shock,
I think
but
you're familiar,
you're a bit
you
more
know what's
relaxed.
going to
You know
happen,
what's
yeah.
going to
So
happen.
what would be Anna's main fear, do you think, Tina?
Probably
Unknown.
Tina.
but probably
Sorry.
it's all right. Probably other people sharing their experiences, and
But did you have some fear and trepidation before you went the first
probably
time?
the first time, yes,
Yeah.
because people talked about how excruciatingly painful it
And they
was.
say your
But
boob
it-
goes like a little piece of paper. That's what grosses me out.
But it's very quick. It's
Yeah.
very
It
quick.
does get flattened because they want to see. Yeah.
But
Then you can have a biopsy.
Yeah, the
Potato
cases of
punch.
breast cancer are astonishing in this country.
Yes, yes.
I'm very surprised that a progressive woman like yourself
Exactly,
has
me
not
too.
been.
I know.
Have a word with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is a good age? When did you sort of start? About 40 or something?
I think
did
it's
you, Tina?
45, isn't it?
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I'm
the-
only 37, so I'm not in the system.
Oh, so you can't
I'm just
have
a
it.
youngie.
No. Oh, well.
It doesn't
I can
protect
still
you.
have it, I know. It doesn't
protect
protect me at all.
I can tell
Yeah,
you that
no.
I had a family relation who had a lump removed at 16. So
Really?
yeah. So don't. She's fine. Yeah, fine now. But she had a lump out at
And
16.
particularly
so-
if there's a family history.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, do you know your family's
Yes.
history, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah. Has
There's
it
no
been?
breast cancer in my family.
No breast cancer.
Yeah.
That's not really a prerequisite, is it? But it's a guide.
I think it's basically it's given to you,
Right.
and you have the opportunity.
Yes.
I think
Do they
it's
charge?
45.
I'm sorry, I-
No, they
Free.
don't.
So it's free.
It's
Yeah.
free.
What a
Up to
devil.
a certain age, 69. I believe it stops at 69. Is that
Okay.
right?
What time? When does it start?
Anytime.
I think it is 45. I'm not sure.
45 to 69.
Yeah.
Well, that's 25.
What a great service, isn't it?
24
It
years.
is, yeah.
It is. It's
That's great
fantastic.
service when you think about it. Yeah.
I found a lump, went to St George's Hospital, they did a biopsy, benign,
Yep.
reassuring, because there's cancer throughout my family. Of the family of 8 of us, 6 have had cancer.
Yeah.
So I'm prone.
Of breast cancer or
Oh, breast,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah,
Across the
yeah.
board, mate.
Yeah.
My sister, my mother.
Breast cancer gets so much awareness and publicity around it, and I think I've got a bit of a thing about that because there are so many other cancers that we
Yes.
don't even hear about hardly ever because they're not promoted or there's not the money to actually
We've got another
make
question
the
we're going to
awareness.
deal with in another show about exactly that. But one thing that you're 37.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it discussed amongst your friends?
No.
Really?
See, young and confident.
That staggers me.
And
That
that's
staggers
what-
you,
what-
Tina. I would have thought it would be
Yeah.
a topic of conversation
Wait,
over a
Tina,
coffee.
what's the statistics? Is it 1 in 4? 1 in 4. I don't want to say this, nor
yes.
do I want to appear to be cursing you. But the thing is, I would be scuttling along and just having a wheat check.
And also,
Yeah.
I think as soon as it hits somebody you know,
Yeah.
that's when you
That's
move
exactly
as
right.
well. But,
So you've not been touched by it at all in your friends or whatever?
Not breast cancer.
No. So that's a
And I'm really-
astonishing strike rate.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't like things overly marketed to me. It's really funny, eh? I know that I'm a fundraiser and that's part of the work that I do, but I'm actually really sensitive to the ways messages are delivered, and I find it sometimes a bit too full on, the whole pink thing, you know, so I actually find it a bit of a turn off. Isn't that a terrible thing to say?
But how else can they get
Terrible.
through to thick people that won't do it? You know,
Well,
they've
I'm
gotta
one of
be-
those thick people
yeah,
that
well,
isn't
they've got to
doing
be a
it,
bit
and I'm
aggressive.
still not doing it. Yeah.
I admire them for their aggression.
No, but there
get
are,
your-
there are other groups that should also be being
Yeah,
talked about,
yeah, well,
and other cancers, you know,
okay.
like skin cancer, for example. That's what we should be worrying
Right.
about.
Loved having the panel with us. We'll be back next week and we will endeavour to answer more of your questions and queries. Hope you've enjoyed the program. If you have, tune in again next week. We'll have another panel and a fair old yap about life in general.
What a good fella you are.